Is open gambling officially the cancer that will bring down all of professional sports? It is the biggest week in college sports because it is rivalry week, and we will discuss who the biggest rivals of all time are and who is the biggest bust, Kenny Picket or Jordan Love. This and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call it Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me. A man so old, he was actually at the first Thanksgiving. My dad, Tim.
Was not there.
Let me ask you a real question, though. Is Squanto as nice as he seems in the books?
I can only go by the book. I wasn't there.
Were you a part of the hunting party for the venison and the lobster? Because you were in your 30s. You the first Thanksgiving.
Number one, you've seen me shoot. You know I was not on a hunting party. I rely on the kindness of others to provide us with venison.
That's fair. Me too. But you were in his 30s, right? 34, 35, about my age.
Changing the subject, but you know what our Thanksgiving will also have that they probably had at the first one?
What?
Apple pie.
We will. The kids, I think, attacked you as soon as you walked in the door today and asked for apple pie on Thanksgiving.
Yes. Grandpa, you're making apple pie, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Especially Grayson. He's very excited for apple pie.
He is. He loves my apple pie, even though it's really your grandma's apple pie.
Well, it's the sugariest thing on the planet.
It's not sugar. It's the cinnamon that's in it that makes it so good.
Okay.
But,
whatever you say.
You know what is also like something that Americans revere, just like they do Thanksgiving?
Don't do this.
Jobu is back. They love baseball.
Great. I am one less American that loves baseball.
You love baseball. And you know why? Because the news came out this week that Shohei Ohtani has narrowed it down to Dodgers, Cubs. I still think Rangers are in there. But Ohtani may be in Chicago to prove God has a sense of humor.
I have three reactions to this.
Okay.
One, I called back in June that he was going to the Cubs.
You did.
Because it makes too much sense. It makes too much sense that the Cubs are a team that need a superstar. They have the money for him, and he fits in perfectly with Chicago.
And one of his best friends plays for the Cubs.
Correct. All of it made too much sense for him to go to Chicago. Two, I hate it because it makes me really excited because the greatest baseball player of the live ball era is going to be playing for my favorite team and an hour and a half down the road. And really, I'll see him a lot just in the ballpark just down the street.
Right.
In Milwaukee. Three, I hate it because I'm not watching the Cubs this year. I hope they lose 100 games.
Well, here's my question. And it's going to have to be answered by the Ricketts before he even comes here. If Counsell tries to pull, if he's got a no-hitter going into the 8th, 9th inning, and Counsell tries to pull him, he will be.
But that's what he's going to do.
He will not be allowed to leave the stadium.
It's what he's going to do.
He did it to Corbin Burns.
I don't know why you'd bring him in the first place. I don't know why Craig Counsell is our manager. I don't know why you'd want Craig Counsell as the manager. I don't know why people revere him. I don't know why you gave him $8 million. And I don't know why you've destroyed my hopes and dreams by hiring him. Craig Counsell is one of the worst managers in Major League Baseball. He is the most overrated manager since Harvey Keene in 1982.
Whoa. Leave Harvey alone.
One good season. Didn't win a World Series.
He came in
all of a sudden he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
He was perfect for that team. Nobody's ever put him on his top 10 list of great managers, but he was a great manager and a friend of your Uncle Bill's. Oh, by the way.
Yeah. That was just fun for me. I just had to see you react.
I almost said a really bad word right there.
But let me put it this way. He's as overrated as Joe Girardi has been throughout the years. I mean, he's just not a good manager. He hasn't won anything. Joe Girardi at least won something. He's more overrated than any manager I've known in my lifetime. He really is. This is a guy that's won nothing. He loses in the playoffs consistently. And so if I'm Shohei Ohtani, and I'm being dead serious on this one, I know I'm interrupting you, and I apologize.
No, I'm used to it.
That's good. That's true, actually. Sorry. Anyway, why would Ohtani come to Chicago knowing that that's who the manager is?
I don't know. Because here's the thing. If it's on a computer, Counsell doesn't do it.
Right.
He has no guts.
Right.
If I'm Otani, I want to play for somebody like Bochy.
I would too.
That's where I want to go.
The only thing that's going to hold the Rangers back is money. Because are they willing to pay him that much money? And can they afford to pay him that much money and then re-sign the talent that they have?
Well, and that's going to be the question. And the other big question is going to be, is Otani going to be able to pitch next year?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I think he will in June. With the way surgeries are now, he'll be fine. I mean, if I'm that team, I don't even play him till June till he can pitch again. Let him fully recover that arm.
I might play him in the field before June, but in Wrigley,
I wouldn't. Why are you
cold.
gonna? But why are you gonna hurt his shoulder even more and his arm even more? I guess it's elbow, isn't it? Why would you hurt his arm even more by having him throw when just rest him and just bring him back when he's ready to go?
Plus, if you wait until June, it gets warm in Chicago.
If he's in Chicago, yeah, for sure. In Texas and in LA, I don't think it matters as much.
No.
But I tell you what, if he chooses Chicago, that Japanese time zone thing isn't as big of a deal. Which to me, it's still not. It's 16 hours from California to Japan in time, and so I never understood why everybody's like they should be on the West Coast because Japan gets to watch their games. Well, it's 16-hour difference.
You got me.
What's 2 more hours of difference?
I didn't know if that was a time difference, so I can't even.
It makes no sense to me. It's as confusing to me as the fact that Mexico City is in the Central Time Zone. Still confuses me. I don't understand it. I get it as with the curvature of the Earth. I don't get it. But it is what it is.
I don't know. But sticking with baseball for a second.
Why?
Did you see what your cousin presented to us?
Pete Rose ball?
Yeah.
That is really cool.
It is
I like
very
Pete Rose a lot. One of the greatest players of all time.
He met Pete Rose and got an autograph, had a chance to talk to him.
Nice.
A couple things about Pete Rose. Number one, he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame ever because of what he did.
Yes.
But he was by far and away the best postseason I've ever seen was when he and A-Rod were the analysts on Fox.
Oh, he's a great analyst. He could have gotten the Hall of Fame as an analyst. But then that story came out with him and the 16-year-old girl.
And that was the end of it.
That was pretty much all she wrote.
He's got his demons. And for those who wonder why I say he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, he gambled on baseball while playing manager, whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't know if...
Well, it's worse that he was the manager and gambled, in my opinion.
If you're a manager, you could leave a guy in too long. You could sit somebody who was due to play, depending on what your bet was.
Correct.
So, he, as great as he was, his records are acknowledged in the Hall of Fame, but he should never have a plaque.
Yeah, I think that's all but been established. But I would have loved him to see him still be a commentator. He was a really good commentator. I get why they disassociated with him. But
the man's an encyclopedia of baseball knowledge. He even knows about Jobu, obviously.
Everybody knows about Jobu.
He loves Jobu. That's why I had to bring him back.
I think me stealing Jobu for the Cubs getting Craig Counsell is my person in return.
Well,
but I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? I will tell you, Pete Rose gambled in sports, and it's a time when sports had integrity. It's a time when sports didn't bow to the almighty dollar and was more focused on sports. But it's changed now, and as this continues to change, I think the argument for Pete Rose going into the Hall of Fame is going to get stronger and stronger. Because what we're seeing in the NFL now, when it comes to gambling, especially what we saw last week with Joe Burrow getting hurt, possibly being hurt earlier in the week and not being on injury reports, which to me isn't a big deal, right?
It's not a big deal to me, too.
If you're gambling on the sport and you're putting serious money down on a game, you have to know all the information possible, which means so Dave Portnoy, right, is suing the NFL this week because he lost $100,000 because he bet on the Bengals to beat the Ravens, not knowing that Joe Burrow's wrist was hurt before the game.
Well, and here's my problem with this. Before gambling was involved, not a big deal. He hurt his hand. He's not on the list.
The injury report. It doesn't matter. It's a competitive advantage.
But now you've got gambling influencing headquarters of the NFL, forcing them to change the way they do business.
But here's the thing, though, and here's the conspiracy theorist in me, as you know I like to be.
Mm-hmm.
DraftKings is in the pockets of the NFL, right?
The NFL's in the pocket of DraftKings.
I think it's vice versa. DraftKings is paying the NFL a lot of money.
Right. So they
run the NFL.
That's what I said. The NFL has to answer to DraftKings.
Yes. Same thing. You said it different. Got it. But anyway, back to this, my conspiracy theory. So DraftKings made a lot of money on people not knowing that Joe Burrow was hurt. So the question is, did DraftKings and all these other gambling agencies want the NFL to cover up and want the Bengals to cover up the fact that Joe Burrow was hurt so people would bet on the Bengals? Because nobody bets on the Bengals if they know Joe Burrow's hurt.
It's a question that should never be asked.
But it is being asked now.
I know, and it's terrible that it is. And
it's the reason Paul Horning and that other guy, I don't
Alex
remember.
Karras.
Thanks you, Alex Karras, were suspended for a year for just being greeters.
Correct.
It's like, okay, you were paid by these casinos, which means these casinos, you now, they paid you. And so in sense, it could be, you now owe these casinos a favor, especially back in that day.
Correct.
It was very mob run at that point. And that's why they said, no, we don't even want this. You're gone for a year. And it prevented Paul Horning from getting his number retired in Green Bay.
I think that still is the reason that his number's not retired. It also prevented him from probably playing in Super Bowl I. He was part of that 3 championships in a row, but Lombardi asked him if he wanted to play in that Super Bowl, and he said no.
He was also really
beat
old
up
at that point and beat up. His time had come. But now the NFL is suspending a lot of players for gambling on premises, right? That's starting to happen. We've seen that happen a lot. So it's cost some guys their careers because they were betting on their own teammates to fail.
Right.
Is the rumor. I don't know if that's true. That was the rumor at the time.
Allegedly.
Right. Steal that from Pat McAfee, right? Allegedly. Hey, it got him out of a lawsuit with Brett Favre, so good for him. But anyway, I lost my train of thought.
Well, it just because these guys have been suspended and some have lost their career, football has got to put that line, that hard brick wall between gambling and the sport.
Well,
back
it's not
in
even
place.
a line. Yeah, you shouldn't have casinos and gambling sites be a part of the NFL. You shouldn't have it a part of baseball. Yet we're seeing DraftKings, we're seeing BetUS, we're seeing a lot of these other things start to sponsor NFL stadiums, and it's becoming a problem. And this is the key to it, because here's the thing: Dave Portnoy is going to win this lawsuit.
I don't think he will, but you look at the Ricketts, they almost put a casino actually in Wrigley Field.
The city of Chicago said no, otherwise it was there.
Which I'm glad they did. Portnoy shouldn't win his lawsuit simply because I don't think it's up to the NFL to report what might be a possible injury. He never missed a practice.
But you have
he
to.
started the game.
These people that are setting the bets and setting what these gambling are know this information. They are in the league. They have a person at every single practice for every single team. And if you think that's not true, then you're in la la land.
All those buildings are paid. All those buildings are paid for in cash.
Correct. They already know what these answers are, and so it's giving them an edge over the average person, which is why you just shouldn't have invited this into the league to begin with. I get fantasy's been a big thing for football, but that's still outside of the NFL, right? Now we're at that point where this is in there, and this is proof. Okay, Joe Burrow was hurt. The Bengals knew and didn't put him on an injury report.
But he never missed a practice. And he started the game.
But he was wearing a wristband, and his wrist that had a brace on it is the one that ended up getting hurt and is costing him the season.
As far as the Bengals knew he was going to play, Burrow said, yeah, I'm fine.
But you still have to put him on the injury report.
I don't think you do. If you're going
to invite gambling, you have to.
Correct.
Because you totally just gave DraftKings the edge and all these casinos the edge. Now, I know there's some of these sites that are refunding people for that injury report not being on there, but not all of them are.
Well, if this does nothing else, this may actually make the NFL wake up and go, you know what? We're going to sever these ties with these betting on DraftKings, BetUS. We're going to sever our relationship with these guys because we can't afford to have this continue.
But how they are bringing in more money into the NFL than any other sponsorship they've ever had. Because this is starting to remind me of, what's that movie with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci?
Was it Goodfellas or was it Casino? It was called Casino.
Casino, where the guy got his start because he knew everybody in the NFL.
He could set the odds.
He always set the odds. Yeah. He was always right. He always knew the information nobody else did. And we're starting to see that come into play now more into the public, where it's like these guys know information the public don't. They're setting the odds because they know something that you and I wouldn't. It's why I don't gamble on sports, right? There's always information that is not put out to the public that the people setting the odds know. And we saw that live with Joe Burrow. This is going to be swept under the rug. I think it's a good thing Dave Portnoy is suing them to make a standard of what this should be, because this isn't going to be the last time that this is going to happen.
It's not. I don't like that gambling is. I mean, you've heard me for years talk about why Pete Rose shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. There should be a hard line between gambling outfits and the sport. And for a long time, you couldn't have a team in Vegas for that reason, because they were worried about the relationship and how it would look. Now you're going to have a baseball team because the A's just got permission to move.
Yep.
The Raiders are there.
Yep.
There's an NHL team there.
Yep.
And there'll probably be an NBA team before all is said and done.
Probably.
So, I mean, for those people who love to gamble, God bless you. I never felt comfortable betting because I don't like losing money and I don't have all that information. But there are some people that spend their entire day researching and making their bets.
People make a living doing that. That's great. I lost a lot of money betting on football, and I don't do it anymore.
Exactly.
So I stick to poker, which is not gambling.
Excuse me?
Poker's not gambling. Poker is playing the room. I don't consider poker gambling. I really don't.
Thank you, Doc Holliday.
Just saying, poker's not gambling. Because I know the odds. I know what I have. I know the odds of what other people have. It's a different game.
And yet you still lost to your grandmother.
Well, she taught me how to play. That was my first poker game. And thank you, Grandma, because you taught. She tried. It's funny. My grandma, I went over to the house, story time. I went over to my grandma's house once, and she was going to teach me how to play poker because I always saw her playing with her friends. She always played with dimes, nickels, and pennies. And I had $100, and I got it all cashed out. It was in my savings, and I had dimes, nickels, and pennies. In an hour and a half, my grandmother playing poker, we played AC Deucey, right? That's what queens and deuces.
No, queens and fours.
Queens and fours are wild. I always forget.
She played with wild cards a lot.
But they were wild cards. In an hour and a half, she took a whole $100 away from me and started to scoop it up into her bag. And I said, I thought I was going to get my money back.
You were about what, 10?
10, I think. I think I was 10 at the time. And she's like, welcome to your first lesson in gambling, because you don't get your money back in gambling. What she was trying to teach me is don't gamble because you can lose all your money. What I took it as is, wait, you can take money from people and not have to give it back? Cool, I'm in. I did find out later, just to make sure you know my grandmother is an amazing woman, she put in a savings account for me that I found out after she passed away, that I had this money and I made an extra $50 off of it because of how she did it. Sweetest woman in the world. But it was the wrong lesson that I took from there, which is, cool, I get to take money from other people and don't have to give it back. This is awesome. And I got really good at poker.
Yeah.
And now I don't play anymore because I have a family, and staying out in a casino till 1 a.m. is not a good idea.
I can never do that.
I can't anymore. I am too old. But you let us know what you think on gambling in sports, and you let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it.
78,000.
78,000. You point at me and then don't talk after I let you talk.
Sorry.
It's all good. 78,000
subscribers.
We are getting close to the 100,000 mark by December. You get a tattoo on your leg of the
Not on my leg.
With Dad logo. It's going right on the side of his cap, right
no,
where it hurts
it's
the most.
Not. No,
That's what I'm excited about. 100,000 views gets us there. But even if we don't make it there, thank you to everybody for subscribing and supporting this channel. We do appreciate it. It is a big week in college football. It is rivalry week in college football.
I do said that. I can't.
It's a hard thing to say. That's why I separated it in syllables. We practiced saying that rivalry several times before the show, and it was ugly. So I got it. I had to slow it down, though.
Biggest rival in all of football will be played this week.
Yes,
that'd be Paul Bunyan's axe between Wisconsin and Minnesota, the greatest trophy in all of sports, the longest rivalry up until recently in sports. Thank you, COVID. Thank you, COVID.
They didn't play in 2020. Nice try. The greatest rivalry in all of college football is not Wisconsin and Minnesota. It's probably a top 25.
It's a great trophy.
It's a great rivalry for Minnesota and Wisconsin. Like, everybody here knows it. But nationally, it has no bearing on anything at all.
That's not true. Everybody
and the greatest
up for this game.
Here's the thing. The greatest rivalry game is not being played this weekend.
No, it'll be played in a couple weeks, and that is the Army-Navy
Yes.
game. That is America's game.
It is. It is truly Army-Navy. That is the greatest college football game in the history of college football games. So that's not being played this weekend. But taking those out, let's talk about this. Because you talked about two different things, right?
Right.
You talked about the greatest trophies, where there's a lot of cool trophies, not the spittoon, which was played this
That was
weekend,
just
which I didn't know what it was. Who is it, Indiana, Iowa?
No, it was Michigan State and Indiana.
Michigan State and Indiana. They played for a
Spittoon.
spittoon.
A $25 spittoon that some kid picked up at an antique
For those of
store.
you that don't know what a spittoon is, if you think of the Old West, the things that the cowboys who are chewing tobacco spit into, that is the spittoon. That is what they play for.
Things that make you go,
And it led to a greater conversation of what are the greatest trophies. But let's start with the greatest rivalry game in college sports. And there is, besides Army-Navy taking them out, I will default to Army and Navy being the greatest.
I hate having to admit
There
this.
is one.
There is.
There is one. And I will let you tell
Well,
the audience what it is.
let's go through what I consider the top rivalries, and then I'll get to it. USC, Notre Dame.
Okay.
Auburn, Alabama.
Great one.
Georgia, Florida. Florida State is right up there.
Texas, Oklahoma.
Texas, Oklahoma is absolutely on the list.
If you're looking at national rivalries,
Yes.
the greatest of all time.
People that get attention, but the
Harvard, Yale.
Harvard, Yale, but is
The
that
oldest.
even Division One?
Yeah, it's Division One.
I thought they were like Division 1A.
Division One. I have no idea.
I don't know.
I think they're Division One. I mean, it's popular because it's the oldest. It was the first college football game was Harvard versus Yale.
Another big one is West Virginia, Pittsburgh, backyard brawl.
Yeah.
Great name.
Not national though.
No,
by
it's
any
not.
means.
It's very regional.
Very much Wisconsin, Minnesota. That's the rivalry.
No, Wisconsin, Minnesota is a national one. People
it's
gear
not.
up and watch
No,
that
they
game.
don't.
The biggest one in all of college sports, at least as far as I'm concerned. and I
USC,
hate
Notre
saying it,
Dame.
Ohio State, Michigan.
Yes, USC, Notre Dame is national. Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Auburn is regional. But when one of them's good, it becomes more national. But the
Alabama.
greatest rivalry game in the
I
history
hate
of
saying
college
this.
football is, say it again, just hear it out
I
loud.
said it once. Michigan beating Ohio State.
Okay, you shut your mouth.
That's-
man.
That's why.
Here's something even more interesting about this rivalry because I'm going to defend it even more. Michigan Ohio State is the greatest rivalry in all of sports.
College sports.
All of sports.
College.
All of sports.
College sports.
It's that, and then you have UNC Duke, and then you have Packers Bears. Those are the greatest rivalries in sports, in American sports.
I'd say Cubs Cardinals, but you have to have both
No,
teams win.
The Cubs think it's a great rivalry.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are the hammer to the nail that is the Cubs. I'm willing to admit that. But so Michigan just won its 1,000th. I can't talk today. They just won their 1,000th win last week.
Okay.
Who's number 2 in all-time wins in college football?
Don't.
It is
say it.
Ohio State. It is the Ohio State University with 963 victories.
So Michigan's going to win again. What
Well,
you're telling
here's
me.
the thing. Who's number 1 in winning percentage in college football history?
Why are we doing this?
I just want to know. I'm proving that this is the greatest rivalry in college sports.
Notre Dame.
Because people are going to debate me on this.
Notre
And
Dame.
I'm going to prove it. It is the Ohio State University with a .735 winning percentage throughout their history. Who's number 2?
Michigan.
Michigan and Alabama. They are tied with a .733. So the most overall wins is Michigan. Second is Ohio State. The biggest winning percentage is Ohio State. And second is Michigan. These teams go out and win. They go out and get things done, and they clash at the end of every single season, and there is nothing greater. Because you look at Alabama, Alabama's third in wins, tied for second win percentage, but Auburn's nowhere close to the top. They're nowhere near it. So you have the two winningest college football programs in the Big Ten facing each other year in and year out. It is the greatest college football rivalry of all time. Drop the pen.
Okay.
Georgia, I mean, there are other ones, and I will say this. There have been times when Ohio State is really good and Michigan's not, right? There have been times when Michigan's really good and Ohio State's not.
Like
And
now.
that 2 and 3 in the country. No, this is when it's most fun. And I will say there have been years where Alabama and Auburn have both been really good at once. There's been times where Georgia and Florida have been really
Right.
good at the same time. So I'm not saying that there aren't college football rivalries that this week that mean more or are more exciting at the time.
Let me ask you this.
But historically, Ohio State and Michigan is number one.
Didn't mean to cut you off, but is Notre Dame USC or USC UCLA the bigger game?
Notre Dame USC is the bigger game because they're normally playing for something. UCLA is really never in the picture, and they haven't been since Jackie Robinson played there. I mean, they really haven't football-wise been good. I mean, you could say Troy Aikman.
They were good in the 70s, in the 80s.
When Troy Aikman was there, but not really, though. I mean, I don't know their record. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't know, but they're not relevant.
USC has been a dominant team for decades.
Right. And for that area, regionally, USC and UCLA is still a big match. In the same way Oregon State is a big game, and it will be a big game this year. In the same way Oklahoma State is a big game. But if you're talking national attention, Ohio State, Michigan is not. It's not even close. It's number one.
I mean, other than Army Navy, which we
different ball game. We're taking that out of the equation. That's America's game.
I'm still looking for any reason to put anything above.
That's why I started with this. We had an argument beforehand when we were prepping for the show, and he put an Army Navy. That's why I immediately, when we started, took that out of the equation.
America's game.
They're not playing this week, and yes, that is number one. We are fighting for number two, and it is Ohio State, Michigan, just by the fact, again, and I was surprised when I found these statistics. Michigan has the most wins, followed by Ohio State. The highest winning percentage is Ohio State, followed by Michigan. That is amazing.
It is. It's
and
depressing.
Winning percentage is much more impressive than overall wins.
It's depressing. Go Michigan. That's all
Really?
I'm saying.
Really?
This weekend? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Go Michigan. Number
You
one.
are not allowed in my home for this game.
Number
that's
one.
what just came into play.
I want Ryan Day to stay at that place with the nut.
The Ohio State University.
Just, I don't like them.
Why?
I never had. They're banned to second rate to the Badgers.
The best damn band in the land.
It is not.
It is
the Badgers.
The best band in
Wisconsin's band is the best band in the land.
No.
They're the only team to ever have their band suspended, which I take as a badge of honor.
I wouldn't. Dotting the I is the greatest tradition. The second greatest tradition in college football.
What's the
is
first?
dotting the I. Iowa, where they wave to the kids at the end of the third quarter.
That's actually
every home
taken
game.
over. I think that is by far and away the best tradition in all of college sports.
I remember when they first started doing it. It's hands down the greatest tradition in college sports. Second is dotting the I at Ohio State.
There's not a dry eye in the house for the first time you see that.
It's the greatest tradition in all of sports in general. It is awesome. For those of you that don't know, Iowa built a children's hospital right next to the stadium, like right across the street, and built it taller than the stadium. And at the end of, I think it's the end of the third quarter, first quarter. It's the end of one of the quarters.
End of the third quarter.
Okay, end of the third quarter. All the kids for the game, they go up to the top level where they have a special room where you can look into the stadium and the kids watch the game. And I don't know how it started, but the announcer decided at some point, if it was planned, but they said, we like to ask everyone to look up at the kids watching the game and wave to them. And all of the Iowa stadium looks up to the kids who are fighting for their lives in some cases, are sick and stuck in a hospital bed, and they wave to the kids just to make them feel special every single Saturday they are at home.
Some of those kids are fighting cancer and have literally their IVs are there, and yet they're watching that game.
They are.
I love it.
Greatest tradition.
And both teams wave at them as well.
They do. Everybody does, which they should. And the second greatest tradition, though, taking that out, that's like Army Navy. It's like, take that out of the equation. It's number one. You can't even fight it.
Right.
But the second is dotting the I.
So we've got that part of it taken away. You also mentioned the best game trophies.
Yeah.
I personally think Paul Bunyan's axe is by far and away the best trophy.
Second best.
Second best to what?
Floyd of Rosedale.
We are not. No, the axe is better than a pig.
So,
and you told me I couldn't say the joke I had. So
Iowa, you can't. Iowa and Michigan.
No, it's Iowa and Minnesota.
I'm sorry, I can't read my own handwriting.
Oh my God.
Iowa and Minnesota fight for the Floyd of Rosedale, which is a giant bronze pig, and it is the greatest trophy in all of college sports.
No cheerleader jokes, I promise.
Yeah, no, none of that. None of that.
That is not.
Second is Paul Bunyan's axe.
Paul Bunyan's axe. is a great.
What about the Illabuck?
I never even heard of that until we were researching this.
I hadn't either, but now I know Ohio State plays for it, and I'm all about it. Ohio State versus Illinois play for the Illabuck. You know why it's called the Illabuck?
Illinois against
The Buckeyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, clever.
Has Illinois
Illabuck.
ever won it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
at some point. I mean, they've been doing it since 1927.
Okay, then at some point.
So in 1927, they were fighting for a live turtle, and then the turtle died in 1929, and they said that's probably not a good idea. And so they got a wooden turtle that they've been playing for, but they don't even play every year. I just think it's a cool trophy.
What is the trophy for, like, the Iron Bowl?
It's called the. I didn't even write it down because it was so dumb. It looks like a golfing trophy. It's called the Fod Oct or something like that. It's a big old golfing trophy. They don't give it out at the game. They get it after the game.
Okay.
So it's not good. I mean, stick to the name of the Iron Bowl. That's what
Yeah, that's very
it's
cool.
the Iron Bowl. You should probably the trophy's not even iron. It's like a golden trophy.
I'm assuming
You failed here miserably. It's a fraternity trophy. That's how it started. It started with one of the fraternities.
I'm assuming Florida, Georgia has some kind of
No trophy.
no trophy.
No.
Florida
Because
State.
the greatest rivalry games don't need trophies to be exciting. Ohio
That's not
State,
true.
Michigan doesn't have a trophy.
No, they don't.
Georgia, Florida doesn't have a trophy. Florida, Florida State doesn't have a trophy.
But if you're gonna have a trophy, Paul Bunyan's axe
Well,
is
you know,
what you should have.
yes, and when you need something to get people to be interested in your game,
It was the
You have
longest
a trophy.
rivalry in all of college football.
consecutive rivalry until COVID. Can't say it anymore.
I will say it
I know you will.
forever.
It doesn't count anymore.
It does.
It doesn't count. I will say Paul Bunyan's axe is a great trophy. It's one of the top ones. All the big trophies are Big Ten. It really seems to be
Yeah.
a Big Ten
It's
thing.
a Big Ten thing. I think Wisconsin plays Nebraska now for a trophy even. And there's
They
a
might.
little brown jug, which is Minnesota
Yes.
and Michigan.
Yeah, Minnesota and Michigan play for the Little Brown Jug, which is really, really cool, actually.
That's cool.
That's one of the top ones. What else do we have? I wrote them all
Considering
down.
that, I'm sure that started with alcohol.
I'm sure. Old Oaken Bucket is Indiana and Purdue. That's another really cool one.
Okay.
And then you have the only one I saw on this list that was not Big Ten related was the Victory Bell, which is USC and UCLA.
That's a cool one.
Yeah. Oh, and they had Ole Miss and Mississippi State, which play for a cannon, which was also cool.
A cannon.
Which is very Mississippi, by the way.
Yes, it is. I love that.
That fits into Mississippi very well. The rest of them were in the Big Ten, though. And then there was like the Troll, which is some Division III. It is very ugly and very scary.
Did you know what?
Paul Bunyan's axe, I think. Is
You know what they
second
used to play
Floyd of
for?
Rosedale.
No, it's above a pig. You know what they used to play for, though?
A piece
Speaking
of
of
ham.
pig, a slab of ham.
Yeah, and they lost it.
And they found it again. But by that time, Paul Bunyan's axe was in place, and everyone went,
If you
Yeah,
look
we're
for a historical trophy that just fits really well, and that's why Paul Bunyan's axe, I do think, wins in the end.
yes.
There is nothing better from legend, from history, and from just overall rivals than Paul Bunyan's axe. Because there's even a fight between Wisconsin and Minnesota
Right.
over where Paul Bunyan is from, which is the stupidest argument because the argument is where is this mythical creature from that doesn't exist?
He's from Wisconsin.
It says you.
And that's where the
but
odds
then you
came
talk
from.
to somebody from Minnesota.
I know.
They're going to say, no, he's from Minnesota. And I remember sitting there listening to you and Fuzzy, who's from Minnesota, talk about this. And I'm like, this is the stupidest argument I've ever heard in my entire life. I finally jumped in at one point and said, this guy's not real. What are we doing?
But the ox is real. And
No,
therefore, he
Babe the
is.
Big Blue Ox is also not real. But he built the Mississippi, right? That's what he built.
And he also built all the lakes in the two states.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's something. It's just a great story. And you're right. It gives people in Minnesota and Wisconsin something stupid to argue about in the cold months of the year.
It does. It does. It is cool because Wisconsin and Minnesota, it's
They
a
don't get
big
along.
rival. Minnesota and Wisconsin people don't get along.
We
And I
don't.
don't know why. I really don't.
Because we have class and they don't.
And there it is. There it is. Never mind. Now I understand. This is how it happens.
Yes.
I grew up more on the south side, and so people from the Chicago area bother me much more than people from Minnesota.
Look, Minnesota is one of the most beautiful states I've ever been in.
Not the south side.
No, that's very flat.
The south
But the
side
northern part of it,
sucks. Except for the Spam Museum. That's actually really cool. I highly suggest people go to Spam Museum.
The best food I ever had was at at Schwann's Food Factory.
Yeah.
Schwann's trucks, for those of you that aren't from this area. I think we have them in Florida too, but Schwann's will go around and they've got prepackaged food and they sell it door to door.
I remember.
I ate at their restaurant once. It's a 5-star restaurant right connected to the factory. Best food I've ever had in my life.
Well, it's like, Panda Express?
Yes.
There's a restaurant called Panda. I don't know if it still exists, but it's out in California, and that's where Orange Chicken was actually created. That was also a 5-star restaurant.
It's really good.
And then the people branched off and created Panda Express. That doesn't surprise me. But yeah, so Paul Bunyan's axe, I do think, is the best trophy. There is no doubt that Ohio State and Michigan, outside of Army-Navy, is the greatest rivalry in college sports. You let us know what you think down below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. Let me tell you, there are 2 starting NFL quarterbacks in this league right now. One who can still possibly be a Hall of Famer, and the other who has thrown 6 touchdowns this year. In how many games are we in now?
We're going into week 12.
Okay. In 11 weeks then, this starting quarterback who started every single game has thrown 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
Kenny Pickett is not an NFL quality.
He's got Whopper Jr. hands, man.
I think it's showing itself too.
It's really bad. I mean, the offense sucks.
Yeah.
Their offensive coordinator is not good. It definitely doesn't go by the strength of Kenny Pickett by any means, but for a starting NFL quarterback through 11 weeks to only have 6 touchdown passes in today's game, that is unacceptable. Jordan Love has at least a respectable 16. Or how many does he have? Yeah, 16 touchdown passes.
Okay. He still can't throw
That's about average.
He still can't throw the long ball.
We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Kenny Pickett.
Okay. Pittsburgh, you said something. They don't play towards Kenny Pickett's strengths.
They don't.
What are they?
I don't know.
See, that's just it.
To him.
In this game, in the NFL today, I think Pittsburgh talked themselves into Kenny Pickett being a good quarterback.
They 100% did.
That if he wore the gloves, he'd be able to hold on to the football and he'd be able to throw. But if you see him pass, he misses because that ball is slipping out of his hand.
The play that made him famous is a play that should be illegal. In my opinion, the play was cheating, that fake slide where they backed off him because they thought he was sliding. That's cheating. In every stretch of the imagination, that is cheating.
If you nail him,
it's a flag. And so they backed off because he was going to slide, so they didn't touch him. And then he faked it and ran for a touchdown after the defense had realized the play was over. That's cheating, and that is what he's most famous for. 8.5-inch hands. We've done that show. We've talked about that show a couple of times now where we've shown that. It's just not big enough to hold the ball. You made the point, he's throwing it high.
Yes.
But 6 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions. He is last in the league in passing yards. He has a 60.5% completion rating, 79.2% passer rating, and this is the saddest stat to me. This really is, because you take all those, and then he is tied for 18th in sacks. So he's only taken 21 sacks this year. He is not getting that much pressure versus somebody like Sam Howell, who has been sacked 51 times this year, and yet leads the league in passing yards.
Look, Kenny Pickett, I can make an argument that Tim Tebow was better than Pickett.
Probably. That's because he had God on his side.
Whatever reason, he won them a playoff game, but both players had the same problem. They could not throw the ball well.
Correct. But at least Tim Tebow had 10-inch hands. I mean, he still had big hands.
His problem was mechanics.
Correct. Very much so.
Kenny Pickett,
Urban Meyer didn't work on him on mechanics. I mean, look what he did with Trevor Lawrence. It was about winning games and playing to the strength. I do think there's an argument that this offense is really bad, but the bigger argument is the fact that Kenny Pickett is not a starting quarterback.
He's not.
And not even a backup quarterback in this league.
And the problem that you're going to have is in Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett played for the Pitt Panthers.
And went to high school in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's viewed as a god in Pittsburgh.
That's great. It doesn't mean that I don't think he is anymore. How can you be 11 weeks into an NFL season and have 6 touchdown passes?
I think the only reason he's been in 11 games is honestly because he's a Pittsburgh native.
Yeah.
He needs to go. They need to find, he's not the solution. He'll finish out this year, but I think they're going to look to draft somebody.
The question is who's the biggest bust? Because you also have Jordan Love, who's really starting to not look good. And we're going to get into this argument because I don't think it's Jordan Love's fault. and I know you disagree with me, but let me go through these statistics real quick.
Okay.
He is 16th in passing yards. He has a 59.7 completion percentage, which is worse than Kenny Pickett's. He has 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, puts you about the middle of the league. It's a lot of interceptions. 83.8 passer rating. Again, a sad stat. The sad stat. He is tied for 13th in sacks, only taking 22 sacks, and we can argue that there's a few of those that are his fault specifically. Here's where comparisons are. Kirk Cousins hasn't played the last 3 games, right? He's 15th in passing yards, so ahead of both Jordan Love and Kenny Pickett in passing yards. He has 18 touchdown passes, where Jordan Love only has 16. And then you have Desmond Ridder, who's starting again. Remember, Desmond Ridder was benched for Tyler Heineke. He has a 65.4 completion percentage and an 84.1 passer rating, both much higher than Jordan Love or Kenny Pickett.
And if you live it where we do, you would think the fact that Jordan Love had a 300-plus yard game this last week is something to celebrate, and it really proves that he's got what it takes. No, he was playing against the Chargers, who have the worst pass defense in the entire league, and if they could catch the ball, the Packers lose.
The Packers should have lost that game. There were 3 touchdown passes dropped. The one with Keenan Allen, he shouldn't have wore that visor, so he wears a clear visor. And the problem with Lambeau is the way the sun sets. Right. It's actually in your eyes.
Well, you could tell that.
On the one side of the end zone, which is why Devontae always wore the shaded ones or didn't wear a visor. Wide receivers don't wear visors at all because there's too much glare. He didn't know where the ball was.
That ball hit him in the chest before his hands even went up.
Correct. He couldn't see it. And but he dropped another one that he should have caught. And then number 1, Johnson, he completely dropped one. The Chargers lost that game. The Packers didn't win that game.
Correct.
There's no doubt about it.
Correct. And
I'm surprised we haven't heard the news Brandon Staley's been fired yet.
I'm too. I think because it's a short week this week, they're going to let him play through. I think they should fire him to give Kellen Moore a chance to see what he's got.
You're seeing what he's got. I mean, this clearly isn't, at least we can say yesterday, this isn't Justin Herbert's fault. I think he's still a very good quarterback in this league. His team's letting him down. This is what I talked about in the Chargers to begin with. I know this is kind of off of what we're talking about, but your receivers are too old. You've done nothing to stack this team with young talent, and they're coming to an end.
Well, and Staley's a defensive-minded coach. His defense should be outstanding, and they're just not.
No,
they're awful.
They're definitely not. They don't have the talent there, and that's a big problem. But here's the thing. Who do you think is the worst bust right now? We talked about this at the beginning. Who is the worst bust, Jordan Love or Kenny Pickett?
Personally, I think Kenny Pickett is a bigger bust.
There's no doubt.
Jordan Love is not. He's got talent.
He's not a bust.
He's not a bust yet. He's not the guy I would like to see the Packers move forward with long term. But he's going to be there.
You ready for this?
Here's my question before you do that. Do you sign him to that long-term extension after this season? And I'm afraid they're going to.
Jordan Love, no. You have another year with him. You completely renegotiated for that very reason to give him another year. Jordan Love is going to be there for another year. Now, if Thanksgiving goes really, 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 really bad,
which it probably will,
then there are different conversations to be had, and you may see Sean Clifford, the backup quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, come in at some point. But I'm going to defend Jordan Love.
Go ahead.
Jordan Love still has a chance to be the 3rd Hall of Famer for the Green Bay Packers.
You're only doing that because you made that stupid statement a long time ago, and you're bound and determined to be right again.
I'm not normally wrong, and this is bothering me.
You are you're wrong many times.
This is
Look
where
at your shirt, and I'll tell you how wrong you are.
Cheering for a national championship team. You're right. The highest winning percentage in all of college football.
We're talking Jordan Love.
Well, then don't bring up my Ohio State where I have to defend them too. This is not Jordan Love's fault. Now, is Jordan Love going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback in this league? It's possible he won't be. I made that comment kind of as a joke, but I really wanted to believe it, and so I said it just for fun. But it's not Jordan. This isn't Jordan Love's fault.
Okay, before you go into LaFleur, and I know you're going to, and I'm not going to argue with you about that. Jordan Love's been here 4 years, 2 of those years with Tom Clements. My problem with Jordan Love,
this is his 2nd year with Tom Clements.
It is. Yeah, 2 out of 4 years he's been with Tom Clements, the guy who, by the way, coached Rodgers to be what he was.
Correct.
My problem with it is Jordan Love does not throw an accurate deep ball. He doesn't get any loft on it so his guys can run underneath it.
Right.
His passes are consistently caught. If they're caught, the guy has to go to the ground.
Right.
He never leads them. And on a sideline pass, when you want to throw to the outside, he throws to the inside.
There's a reason. There's a reason. And the reason
he's not a good quarterback.
No, he's playing really tight. Because if you look at it, right, there's a different Jordan Love in week 1. There's a different Jordan Love in week 2. And the second half of that Saints game in week 4, that is a different Jordan Love quarterback. The reason that he is not succeeding later in the season is because, and I'm going to quote Ferris Bueller on this, Matt LaFleur is like Cameron. He is so uptight that if you stuck a lump of coal up his ass in 2 weeks, you'd have a diamond. He is not the walrus.
You've waited for that all week.
I have. But, I mean, it's true, though. You look at him in his news conference, he's picking on reporters for the way they ask questions. Like, that's not a head coach in this league. We know through Kirk Benkert's reports he has to have a whipping boy,
which
means that quarterback room is insane. So we go through a couple losses, and especially after the Saints game, Jordan Love changes. He's a different quarterback. He's not playing loose. He's not playing ready. He's throwing off his back foot a lot more, which Rodgers did to an extent, but that's not his play. He's forcing throws. If you look at his arm in week 1, go back in tape, and I don't have it here, but go back in tape from week 1 to the last 3 weeks. His arm goes from being loose and a cannon all of a sudden to being like this, like he's shot putting the ball.
Exactly.
It's not the same throwing motion because he's so nervous to make a bad throw that we've all done it. I've done it in tennis. You've done it in baseball where you get so uptight and you're so nervous of making a mistake that you end up making a mistake because you're not playing the way you're supposed to be. That's not Jordan Love's fault. And what I really want to see is I want to see a coach that actually believes in Jordan Love. I want to see a coach that actually, when he comes to the sideline, says, go do you. If you look at Mike Holmgren, he said a lot of things bad about Favre on the sideline when he wasn't there, but as soon as he comes up, he goes, listen, keep it going. This is where I need you to be, or no more rocket balls, please. Like, he's not telling you to not be yourself.
You would look at,
come on, dude.
You would look at Steve Mariucci and go, get him ready. Wait, no, leave him in there.
He's ready to take him out.
He's arguing with himself.
If you look at Mike McCarthy not only allowed, but encouraged Aaron Rodgers to call plays that he saw differently and to play the game he knows how. Matt LaFleur, because that was the big question, right? Okay, we're really going to get to see LaFleur's offense because we all know Rodgers was the offensive coordinator changing the plays all the time. But that's the problem you have now is Jordan Love is not allowed to make those same decisions, and you need to trust your quarterback to make those decisions, and he's not trusting him to do it. He's forcing him into bad plays. He's not allowing him to see the field. And then when he has somebody open, he's so afraid of missing the throw that he's not leading receivers. He's not taking the chance on putting it on the outside shoulder. But you see it, and you see when he's loose and he's making those throws. And so I just want to see Jordan Love with a quarterback that actually allows Jordan Love to play the game.
Look, Jordan Love in the first few games, his feet were planted.
Correct.
Now he's bouncing on his toes.
Yes, he is.
And he's not Aaron Rodgers by any means. I don't want him to be Aaron Rodgers. I want him to be the best Jordan Love he can be.
He's not.
And the problem is, it goes back to everything wrong in Green Bay. You have silos. LaFleur reports to Mark Murphy. I do that every time. Mark Murphy. Gutekunst reports to Mark Murphy.
Right.
LaFleur should report to Gutekunst.
Correct.
And he
Gutekunst
doesn't.
Didn't hire him.
No, he doesn't.
The coach was hired before the GM.
I do not think they're on the same page at all. I don't think Gutekunst is really in love with LaFleur because he's not a good.
They don't like each other.
They don't, and he's not. And LaFleur is not a good head coach.
No.
That's been proven.
No, he's not.
And he shouldn't be there. They need to make a move off of him. Problem is, Green Bay is unique. We're stuck with Mark Murphy until July of 2025.
Right.
So we're within that last year or two window. Right. They're not going to make a change.
Well, and he also, he just simply, the reason he fired Mike Pettin a few years ago and brought in Joe Barry is because he and Mike Pettin didn't get along.
He wants a yes man.
He wants a yes man. And that's why he brought in his friend Joe Barry. Instead of looking at the situation saying, you run the defense, this is yours, you make the decision. I know you're fighting to be a head coach. You go make those decisions, and I'll run my offense. And that's what it should have been. That's what Mike Ditka did with Ryan.
Yeah, Buddy Ryan.
Buddy Ryan, thank you.
Well, and the other part of this...
Mike Dick was also afraid of Buddy Ryan.
As well, he should. He was also afraid of defensive players like Singletary and
Yeah,
uh,
100%.
I can't think of the other guys that were on that team, but Mike think a lot of good ones. But LaFleur panicked when he didn't get. He put talk about a bet. He went all in on getting Jim Leonard.
Right.
Jim Leonard said, "No, I'll stay." So now he's in a panic situation, and he hired Joe Barry. He should have gotten Dan Quinn, and he should have looked at Dan Quinn and said, "You do you."
Right. And that's the difference between Mike McCarthy as well. Mike McCarthy looked at Dan Quinn and said, "Listen, this is your defense.
Right.
I don't want to think about this defense. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm the head coach. I'm going to make final decisions, but this is your defense. I'm going to focus on my offense." And it's been great. It's been a great marriage. They haven't won anything yet.
It's been a great marriage, but the problems are still on the offensive side of the ball.
Quarterback. They got a bad quarterback.
Is he as okay? Here's a good question: Dak Prescott, Jordan Love.
With Mike McCarthy, Jordan Love.
I think they're about the same quarterback.
It could be. The issue with Dak Prescott is he's very turnover prone, and he's not seeing the field very well. I've seen Jordan Love see the field extremely well at times where he is checking down, looking for receivers, not throwing into double coverage, which Dak Prescott doesn't do well. He gets panicked and throws into triple double coverage. Where Jordan Love has that ability to check down, Tom Clements has done a very good job with him over the last couple of years, and he is seeing the field well. But the issue is you look at Jordan Love on the side of the field, he's just waiting to get yelled at again every single time.
You're wondering if in that quarterback room, if LaFleur is just going off on Love.
You could cut that tension with a knife in those quarterback rooms.
It's awful.
I mean, it's not acceptable. LaFleur needs to be fired, and that's why I say you can't call. It's the same thing with Justin Fields. Look at Justin Fields against the Lions last week. He all of a sudden looked like the Ohio State quarterback I got to see. All of a sudden, he's checking down. He's recognizing receivers. What I loved about watching Justin Fields at the Ohio State University is that he would not only check down, but he'd be able to see the open receiver. People would always say he didn't check down. Well, he knew who's going to be open, and so he would literally not even look at the number one option and just get the ball out to number two. He's a very intelligent quarterback, and you got to see that again. So again, I see the same thing in Jordan Love I see in Justin Fields, where with a better coach, he could be better. Now, I'm not saying I'd rather have Justin Fields. I would. Justin Fields, I think, is a much better quarterback. But there's a lot still in Jordan Love we haven't seen, and the beginning of the year to now doesn't make sense. Kenny Pickett has sucked since the word go of this season. Jordan Love hasn't. So there's something that had to be that is making this happen.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Ask away.
So we're going in. I've said all along the Packers are going to be a 5-win team.
5-win team.
They've got 5 games left. They're probably going to win 6 or 7. Maybe. I'm going to play the Bears again.
A much better Bears team.
We'll see. But if you go into the draft and say they're number 6.
Yeah.
You're going to have a chance to get Prentice Jr. or
Penix
Jr., sorry. Or Nix.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a couple other ones. I would not draft a kid from USC.
Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I would never draft him.
Drake May will be gone in the first couple picks. If I'm the Packers, I'd trade up and get Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well, that would be my choice as well. I don't think they're going to do that.
Overall pick. The Bears are going to draft.
But unfortunately, if the Packers have number 6, I fully expect them to trade it, move back, and get more offensive linemen, which I think is silly considering that they need weapons. But yeah, it's Goody.
It is.
And he's going to punish LaFleur as much as he can.
I don't know why, but he is. He wants to bring in his own guy. It's like you're going to be gone by the time this is done, too. Take what you got.
Would you take a quarterback or would you stick with Jordan Love?
Stick with Jordan Love. I think there's a lot more holes in this team. I mean, the thing is, you need to win now with that defense. I mean, that's the issue. We have a window right now, and it's being ruined with a bad coach and bad draft picks and a bad offense. I just want to see another season with Jordan Love. But here's the thing, though. I'm also a big fan of Penix Jr. from Washington. I think he's going to be a stud in this league. The way you watch him play quarterback is the way quarterback should play in the NFL. The way he looks down on receivers, the way he makes decisions, the way he runs an offense.
I mean, like Sean Clifford did
at Penn State. Yeah. A lot of the same.
They're sitting on our team right now.
Yeah. But there's no doubt that Penix Jr. is a different type of athlete than Sean Clifford.
Sure, of course he is.
But I really like watching him play. Watching him play is like, oh, there's an NFL ready quarterback. And he's the only one. Drake May is there too. Caleb Williams not. He shouldn't be a first-round pick. He's going to be a bust. I have no doubt in my mind about that. So I don't know. It depends who's there. I mean, if Penix Jr. is there and you can grab him, I won't be mad at that pick. But I also don't want to see him come to Green Bay with this coaching staff and watch him get ruined.
I'd like to see what Sean Clifford has at some point before the end of the year. I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
But I'd like to see it happen. Just to see if there's anything there.
I think there is something there, but you're not going to see it.
No, you're not.
He's going to stay the backup, and that's the way it's going to be.
Okay, so we've beaten that horse to death. Jordan Love is not. He looked better this week, and I'm happy for that. The Packers won. I'm happy for that. Now they have to play on Thursday. I'm not so sure I'm happy about that.
And we're going to make picks. But you let us know in the comments below, is Kenny Pickett or Jordan Love the biggest bust? And can Jordan Love be saved? Let us know down below, and while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show.
So last week,
we enjoy making it.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
Last week, one of us was 1-4. One of us was 3-2.
We're going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I wasn't 1-4.
Shush.
All right, let's get into this week's games. A lot of good games this week.
Yes.
It was not like last week where it was kind of tough.
It was bad games.
Yes, it was. Starting off, the Thanksgiving night game, 49ers at the Seahawks.
You have a 49ers team that bounced back last week. You have a Seattle Seahawks team that I don't know who they are or what they do. I don't know their identity. Pete Carroll's identity has always been a running team. It doesn't seem to be that anymore. So I really don't know what to expect. I think the 49ers are going to bounce back and take this on the road.
I honestly, I think Purdy is better than he showed in those 3 games. Everybody's going to have a sophomore slump. He did. He's come back off an injury. 49ers are the better team on that one. I would go with them.
All right, my pick now. We have an interesting game fighting for the AFC South. Jaguars at Texans.
A game nobody thought would mean anything at this point.
No, but this is for the division lead. If the Texans win this game, they are ahead of the AFC South.
Trevor Lawrence has not been the Trevor Lawrence of last year, the end of last year when he was lighting it up.
He's having a sophomore slump for sure.
He is. CJ Stroud, on the other hand, is beating everyone's expectations.
From
Michigan.
The Ohio State University.
We don't have to say that every time.
But we do.
Any case, I think the Jags are going to be in the playoffs. I think they're playing better, and they're starting to play better. However, the Texans just seem to be that team this year. I think Houston wins in an upset.
Yeah, we're going to go, and I don't even think this is an upset anymore. You and I are going to have the same answer to this one. The Texans are looking unbeatable at this point, where the Jaguars, they're a lot like the Seahawks. They're still trying to figure out their identity. They're still trying to figure out who they are. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to look really good against a bad Texans team, and this is going to be a close game. But the Texans have been winning a lot of close games this year. They're going to win another one and take the lead of the AFC South.
Okay. Next game up, after the Eagles win last night on Monday night.
It's a really good game.
It was a really good game. Again, if the receivers catch the ball,
Did you know this
Kansas
is
City
the third
wins.
straight week that Kansas City hasn't scored in the second half?
All I know is Marquez Van Scanley, the former Packer.
There's the reason the Packers didn't want him anymore.
Just went away. He ran on his heels, so when the ball hit him right in his hands, his body is bouncing up and down. If he runs on his toe, you got to catch that ball.
He can't catch the ball.
He always reminded me of the guy from the replacement.
Yeah, 100%. Really fast, can't catch.
Anyways, Bills are at the Eagles.
Eagles. I don't even need to explain it on this one.
Really?
The Eagles are the best team in the NFL. They proved it last night. NFL. They're the best team in the NFL. It's not even close. The Bills are a team that won last week, but their quarterback is not sounding like the leader of that team. I don't like what he says in the press conference, saying, well, it's all on the quarterback. Sometimes quarterbacks got to step up and make things happen. It's like, okay, if that's how you're talking in the locker room, there's a reason your teammates don't like you. It is the Eagles winning this game. The Bills aren't going to make the playoffs this year.
I said it at the beginning of the year. Eagles weren't going to make it. I think the Eagles are going to win this as well.
The Eagles could lose the rest of their games and still make the playoffs in the NFC.
Well, the NFC, there's not that many good teams.
No. No, the Eagles are real good, though. They're the best team in the NFL. Next game, this is an interesting one because we just talked about one of the quarterbacks here. If you look at the playoff picture, they both still have a chance. It is the Bengals at the Steelers. The Steelers are currently the 7th seed. The Bengals are a game out, 2 games out now, actually. And no Joe Burrow.
No Joe Burrow.
Who do you got?
I'm still taking the Bengals because I think Pittsburgh is not that great a team. They don't have a leader. I know it's in Pittsburgh.
At Pittsburgh.
Yes, I understand that.
A really good defense.
I don't even know who the quarterback is for the Bengals. I still think the Bengals are going to win.
Browning is going to be the starter. A.J. McCarron was just brought back as the backup.
Well, that's a plus, actually, because I'd rather see A.J. McCarron's wife than Taylor Swift any day, all day long.
Well, I'm pretty swifted out myself.
Yeah, I'm at the end of the... I just want to see the next album. That's all.
I don't even want to see that. But if you're talking Bengals at Steelers, the Steelers are going to win this game. Kenny Picket doesn't need to be good. That defense is really, really good. And the Bengals, unless Browning ends up really showing up for this game, which he could.
He will.
He could. But Steelers are losing a lot of low-scoring games because of how good their defense is, and I think the Steelers win this one.
Last game, first game on Thanksgiving.
I don't want to pick this game.
Gotta pick it.
I don't.
Packers at the Lions.
Packers.
Traditional. Oh, my God.
I won't pick against the Packers.
You don't have... I'm asking you to get out, our show, we get out of our fandom for a bit.
Packers.
Because we're realists when we're looking at these teams.
Yeah, so the Packers are going to lose this game. The Lions are a very good team. They're the second best team in the NFC. They will be an NFC championship team.
Do you think the Lions are better than San Francisco?
I do.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I think they're the third best.
No, they're the second best team in the NFC. They will be in the NFC championship and get beat by the Eagles. But the Lions are really, really good. And the Lions are going to win this game.
Going away.
My pick is the Packers.
Okay. I mean, I love the Packers. And I am a homer, but I'm not an idiot.
I just said the Packers weren't going to win this game. I said very clearly the Lions are going to win on Thursday night at home. The Packers are going to lose to the Lions for the four times in a row for the first time since the 1940s.
So sad. Will this be LaFleur's last game?
If they lose, it should be. Yeah, he shouldn't be let off. But the problem is it's not Gutekunst that has to make that call. It's Mark Murphy that has to make that call. And Mark Murphy's not going to make that call. And so, no, he won't be fired. But I picked the Packers.
I'm taking the Lions. I'm not.
That's fair. I am too. But in the sense of picking games, I'm picking. That was my one win last week. I picked the Packers over the Chargers. That was my one win.
The only good thing about this, while the Packer game is on, I'll be cooking, getting turkey ready.
Yes, and I will be stealing things from the table.
No, you won't.
The game.
You will not.
I just found out I have to make 2 different types of potatoes for my son.
Why?
Because he wants, as he calls it, mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes?
Mashed potatoes and glasbach potatoes.
You're the only one that likes those.
I love them.
You just like saying that
Glasbach
100 times during the day.
It's the only reason I make them is just to say that.
Grayson looked at me last year.
Yeah.
And said, "Can we have pie before we have turkey?" Like, no.
And he won't eat turkey. He's got the bird. Stuffing is my favorite. Before we end this, because we're going to go into the last word, what is your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Are we taking the turkey out of it?
No, you can put turkey into it.
Turkey, cranberry sauce.
Okay, I'm asking for your favorite, and you've already listed 2 things.
I know, because they're all good. I can't pick just one. I mean, scallop potato or scallop corn.
Scallop corn's good.
Which is really good. Dressing, which is really good because it's sage and onion. So how can you be bad? Yeah, I don't.
Are you going to pick one, or
I'm going to?
Because there's one. There is an answer.
Well, the apple pie is my favorite.
Okay, that's
because
fair.
I screwed up the pumpkin pie so badly last year.
One time. This is the funny thing. He screws up it one year, and it was bad.
It was awful. I made 2 of the damn things, and they were awful.
It was not edible.
No.
It could have been something with the filling that you got, though. Normally, your pumpkin pies are really good. Last year, it was not. But that's okay. It doesn't mean you make a bad pumpkin pie. Every other year, it's good.
I'm sticking to the apple pie.
But he's not making pumpkin pie this year. Stuffing is the answer. or dressing, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, because you
The
don't.
thing with the croutons, that is the greatest food on Thanksgiving. It is better than dessert. It is better than the turkey. If I could just have, like, the stuffing won't make it the day because I'm going to eat it.
Stuffing goes in the bird. I will never do that because it scares me to death.
Because you're going to get salmonella from it.
Your grandma used to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
I can never do it. I make it separately.
Yeah. Grandma also cooked everything well done.
She also cooked everything the day of Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Which,
that's what you're supposed to do.
no, the apple pie is being baked
Well,
the day before.
okay, pie is different. But stuffing is the answer. It is the greatest Thanksgiving food. You let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. We have had a great show today, but as everybody knows, you cannot have a conversation with your father without your dad getting the last word. So it is all you.
So we're going to do some Thanksgiving thoughts. Today, this is a week where Americans traditionally celebrate the Pilgrim's Landing on Plymouth Rock, and we do it by stuffing themselves with enough food to last them until the spring thaw. I prefer to take a look at things from a more historical point of view and from its historical beginnings. Thanksgiving has been celebrated off and on throughout America's history by the presidents. Some chose to celebrate it, others chose not to. And it wasn't until 1863 when President Abraham Lincoln declared Thanksgiving a national holiday. He called on all the American people to, with humble penitence for our national stubbornness and bullheadedness and disobedience, fervently implore the interposition of the almighty hand of God to heal the wounds of the nation. With that declaration, he declared the last Thursday of November to be a national day of Thanksgiving. Now, every family has its own traditions. At the Carney house, we were Irish, so we lived by the rule that there was always room for one more. So we always had friends or neighbors or anybody who was going to be alone over to the house. When my kids were small, we started a tradition to secretly take food to a family that was identified by our church as a family in need. And we'd take them bags of groceries to their house to make sure that they'd have another reason to be thankful because they actually would have food on the table for their Thanksgiving. There were years where that was a rather large sacrifice in our family because it cost a lot of money and we were operating on a tight budget. But we had a home, we had food, we had healthy children. So the least we could do was to help another family be able to be thankful on Thanksgiving. So if you know a family in need, or if you are at the store and you see somebody that looks like they're having trouble, pick up their tab. If you see a military person, make sure you honor them by buying them their coffee, their lunch, because without them, we don't have our freedom. I hope all of you and all of your families have a very happy and very blessed Thanksgiving this year.
It's really good.
Thank you.
Well done. I can tell you one thing I am very thankful for, and that is for everybody that watches the show and all of our 78,000 plus subscribers. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you watching, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Bye, everybody.